Welcome to Behind the Glamour, the podcast where we get real about what it actually takes to thrive as an entrepreneur, actor, and in the world of real estate. It's not all glitz and glam. We talk about the challenges, the hustle, and the behind-the-scenes moments that don't make the highlight reel. My goal is to help and inspire you as we navigate life's ups and downs, all while building something meaningful. So, if you're chasing big dreams and want the real story, you're in the right place. Hello, Craig Knizek.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fabulous. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here today.
Mm-hmm.
So you have been with the agency where we both work since 2011, since it was founded.
Pretty close to day one.
Mm-hmm. So you're what we all call the OG. Like you're in that
There
group.
was about eight or nine
Mm-hmm.
people that were first there. Like South Beverly or something like that. Farah, Michelle Schwartz, John Ruiz, Josh Mylar, Blair, Billy, Mo, Dee Dee Howard came in pretty quick thereafter. I can't remember. Jeff Cole, I think, was an original guy as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Alejandro Aldrete.
Oh, yes. It's so cool to think about that. And it's crazy to think it started that way with just a few of you now.
It's very kind of mind-blowingly impressive of what Billy and Mo and all of us have built. But just the amount of energy I think that it takes makes me tired to just think about what those guys have kind of done, because it's kind of Herculean to sort of think we went from one office of whatever, 8 or 10 people. And then we moved to the Beverly Hills office. That was a big deal. And then Billy and Mo kept on saying, you should open up the Valley. I'm like, no, I'm too tired. It's too much work. And then Emil Hartunian, we opened up Calabasas. And then Michelle Schwartz and I opened up Sherman Oaks and then Studio City. And then the three of us just kind of combined our efforts, and three of us collaboratively oversee and run the whole San Fernando Valley.
And you guys all three of you are such great leaders. You have all the qualities that make someone a great leader.
Oh, thanks. Well, I mean, I think 1 + 1 + 1 = 10. Emil has his strengths. I have my strengths. Michelle has hers. And by the way, it's not exclusive. You can deal with Michelle on one thing. Doesn't mean you can never deal with Craig or Emil. You kind of get whoever is available. That's a big thing. But also just I might know certain agents that Emil doesn't know. So I would be a good person to help an agent with a question about that transaction regarding another agent. And also just we all have different sets of experiences. So I think it really presents, from my perception, a very productive kind of leadership for agents. And of course, our secret sauce is Derek Valens, the sales manager.
Yes.
He's awesome.
He's the best.
Buddy of mine. It's a great story of how, kind of in the midst of COVID, when we didn't have a sales manager, I ran into him at a gas station. He had his son in the car. I'm like, yo, bro, what are you doing these days? And it just kind of evolved from there. And I know he is extraordinarily happy to be here with us and dedicated. And I think in general, he makes everybody in the office and all the agents very, very happy with his accessibility and just how helpful he is.
He's so incredible.
Yeah.
I call him like every day. I call him all the time. But we're so fortunate to have him, and then to have the three of you, and just to know that if something happens, we're not alone in navigating whatever that is.
Well, remember, Michelle, Emil, and myself, that's all we do is sell as well. So yes, we kind of oversee the offices, but so likewise, I send out emails to Billy or Brandon Braga or Doug Sandler or Derek or whomever. And usually the headline is Knizek has a problem. Knizek has a question, because I have problems and questions because I'm doing deals and I'm constantly having to avail myself of all of the experience and that other people have at other levels too. Because remember, a $1 million condo is a different transactional animal than a $20 million Beverly Park or Malibu or whatever. So all these things are just kind of different. I've been here kind of the longest, so I have a pretty great institutional memory of whom to call and why. If you call me and say, hey, I've got a listing in Los Feliz, who's a good person to tap into? I know 5 baller agents within the company, boom, 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 different than Laurel Canyon, different than North Ranch, right? And it would be different people. So that level of collaboration, I think, is pretty additive to the whole experience.
Yes. And I think you really do. And you know a lot about off markets too. And I remember when I first started, I just couldn't believe how much you knew. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'll ever know. It just is so, when you first start, you're like, oh my gosh.
One thing that's kind of cool and important is, and Billy Rose stresses a lot is caravanning. People think if I can see it on Zillow or Redfin or MLS, I've seen the house, and you need to go and see the house.
Yes.
Not only do you need to go there, then you can talk with the listing agent, and that's a good relationship to have. And the listing agent is appreciative that you came and supported. And so a conversation ensues from there. And then you're going to see other agents you're going to run into and be like, oh, hey, man, what's happening? What have you seen? Where are you going? What do you got? What do you need? Boom, 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 boom. So you're actually in the river flow of deal making. You're not going to be in the river flow of deal making sitting in your living room or sitting at Starbucks. There's no way. That's not what the business is. You have to interface with people and talk to them about what it is and see things. I'm not sure where I got off on that about, I can't remember how I got off on that.
Oh yeah, no worries. No, that is true. I think it's important and I agree with you. And that's how I would just go to a lot of open houses. Anything, Twilight events, caravan, every Tuesday, go to the meetings. And that's how you do get to know, a lot of people that way.
We were talking about off-market pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And so, remember with clear cooperation, that's a existential threat to an off-market pocket. And, off-market pockets are a definite currency in this business, in this town. If you're in Kansas City, Austin, Texas, it just may not be a thing. And I'm not wise enough to know how or why it would or wouldn't be there. But in Los Angeles, there's plenty of people with a high level of notoriety, fame, that just do not want people to know about their house or see their house. And that makes sense, and their privacy and their wishes should be protected. And so having that information, again, gets exchanged. We obviously have like Top Agent Network. The agency has our own in-house network. Mm-hmm. All the other brokerages probably do as well. But one of the things is that I learned not only from Billy, which is how the company got founded, was let's all share, but also there's one of the top business networking groups in the country is called Provisors. And it's the whole premise is you give referrals. You don't get referrals. You don't ask for referrals. You give referrals. And it's a fascinating concept because if Lindsay says, oh, I'd like to thank Craig, he gave me a referral because I'm an accountant and he gave me somebody who needed an accountant. And then the next person who's a divorce lawyer says, I'd like to thank Craig, he gave me some clients. All of a sudden, all the other members are saying, who's this guy, Craig, that keeps giving referrals? And so then they get together, and the whole nature of the Provisors is to like, let's all have lunch together or breakfast, whatever it is. Everybody pays for themselves. So you get to know somebody and you get to know why you would give that person a referral. Just by being in the club itself is sort of validation of who you are professionally. Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty good thing. So again, the premise is you give because you're going to get. It's not truly altruistic, mm-hmm. right? It's actually calculating, but it does make sense. And I think it bears out that if you give, you will get back.
I think that's important. And it's like a help me help you.
Yeah.
And being good at what you do and being kind is important, I think. And
being good, being kind, expecting if you treat somebody nice, they should treat you nice back. If you treat somebody spicy, they'll probably treat you spicy back. And there's a place and a time for both. I mean, look, this is talking a lot of money. So sometimes things get spicy. And I always say it's a antagonistic business for sure. Sellers want the most, buyers want it the least. Mm-hmm. Sellers want it fast, buyers want it slow. Buyers want it perfect, sellers want it as is. Mm-hmm. Those are completely incompatible, antagonistic things, confrontational. So agents who get by and large paid the same on each side of the deal. And that's a whole other thing with the new class action lawsuit. Mm-hmm. But basically, they're both incentivized to make the deal work. And yet they have to be an advocate, a strong and fierce advocate for their client's position. So how do you do that when you're kind of fighting in a fight mode? You do it professionally, with respect, with courtesy, and with a high level of intellectual integrity. Mm-hmm. You and I both know somebody says they do their inspections and they send you the inspection report and say, fix everything. You're like, what? Like you didn't take the time to specify, or maybe we should have a conversation about what these things cost and what do they really cost. And just because your expert says it costs $10, maybe my expert says it costs $2. Mm-hmm. And if every one of your experts are the $10 guys, that's kind of weird, right? So you're kind of inflating it. So that's not really right or fair. So all these things are fascinating. And one thing I always, but not always, but I've said to folks is who want to be in a realtor, like, well, because it's not like that's everybody's childhood dream.
Yeah.
Right. Most people get here from a different path, but going and studying either in high school or college, philosophy and religion and psychology. That's all you need, right? You don't necessarily need to know construction. That can help if you're in that, if you kind of want to focus on that. Design. I don't know much about design at all. Nobody asks me about design, but some people are great at design and that's where their niche is. But understanding psychology, that's what sales is. So understanding why somebody wants something, why somebody doesn't want something, how can you psychologically bridge the gap? Monetarily is kind of easy, right? We did that book club, never split the difference.
Yes.
Right? That's the lazy way. Well, I'm asking for 50, let's give him 25, split the difference. That book says never split the difference. That's like a lazy way. Do a fierce intellectual application of why. Where's that $50,000 coming from? Did you make it up? Is it your wish? Is it your want? Is it your need? No, it's based on this plumber's estimation, this carpenter's estimation. Okay, my carpenter and my plumber think slightly differently. Let's have a conversation about that. Let's come to an agreement. And somebody's going to win because, again, it's adversarial. But I always say in elections, rarely does somebody win unless you're in Russia. Nobody wins 100-0. It's usually you win 52-48, 51-49. Like you win by a margin, and that's our job, is to get a win for our client in whatever they feel is important. Sometimes just getting the house or just selling the house is the win, and they don't need to squeeze every last penny or last dollar. Sometimes they do need every last penny and last dollar. So those are all the things I find that's what keeps me motivated about doing this job, is helping, being a trusted advisor to clients, buyers or sellers, in navigating through, as you said, their most expensive asset.
Yes.
Not only the most expensive asset, the most important asset. It's where you wake up. It's where you go to bed. It's where you raise your family. It's where you have your guests over. What can be more important than that?
Exactly.
Right? It's not like, that Starbucks is one of 1,000. Right? That might be your special Starbucks, but there's 1,000 Starbucks, and they're kind of all the same-ish. But your house, that's your life. So where you live and how you live, that's really interesting and important to kind of be involved in somebody's process of buying or selling that.
And it's a really nice feeling being able to hand over the keys.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's emotionally, it's fraught with emotion, this whole process. And I kind of find a lot of times my job, or the way I do my job, is not to be emotional. I let the clients get emotional. And I would say when my clients are getting upset or angry, I know 90% of the time it's not at me. I'm a proxy for the other side. And while it's not fun to bear the brunt of that, I understand it. And every now and then a client will say, I'm so sorry. I'm saying, listen, don't apologize. That's our business relationship. I get it. You're allowed to vent. But if you're in the trenches all day and your clients are venting at you, it can be emotionally exhausting, right? So you're on that roller coaster. So yeah, it's fun to hand over the keys, and that's an emotional win. But if you're doing 30, 40, 50, 60 transactions a year and you're doing this for 10 years, I mean, it's nice. Each one is special, and each client, becomes almost like not an annuity, but in 7, 8, 10, 15 years, if you've done your job well, they'll call you back. And, when they're having friends and family over, wow, this house is so cool. How'd you find it? How'd you get it? Well, Lindsay was my agent. She found it for me, or she did this or that, or she really got me, or I was in escrow on another house, but she advised me not to do that. And I'm so glad, So I usually say, particularly for new buyers, the real estate gods will smile on you. I mean, it may not seem that way, especially during COVID when you were writing 7, 8 offers for a buyer and you were losing out. But usually it works out. Every now and then something happens that's not great, but usually it works out. I think if you have that faith that if the client is willing to do the work, you'll be able to find the right house for them.
Yes. And you just have to keep a pulse on the market and know.
Oh, that's everything. That's so important.
You have to pay attention.
Yeah, I think, I've heard Mauricio say, like, part of what we are, we're connectors. And so if you got your finger on the pulse of the market, what's coming up, what's price reduced, what's inefficiently priced, which goes back to, have you seen it on Caravan, right? So Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, here in the Valley, those are the days you need to be working for sure. If you're not, you're just not in the business. And that's the other really shockingly difficult thing to accept if you're wanting to go into real estate is Sunday is church day. Like if you're not working on Sunday, you're just not in the business. And I've seen plenty of agents who get so big, they don't work on Sundays. That's fine. I don't know how you stay in touch with your clients and the inventory if you're not available for those days. I'm sure there's ways to do it, but I think Sunday is the day that you got to be working. And in a tough market, then Saturday becomes the day because that's when the consumer is mostly available to go shopping.
Right, because people work usually 9 to 5.
Yeah, Monday through Friday. And so it's just more difficult. But then, and by the way, if you don't want to work with them Tuesdays and Fridays, and that's what's always struck me, it's a little unusual. There's less inventory and more agents. That would mean that more agents should be coming through to see inventory. And it's absolutely, I see it the other way around. Less agents caravan. It just tells me that less agents are applying, to me, the proper approach. I don't know what they're doing if you're not out looking at inventory.
Yes, I think it's important. I just saw the house that you and Ingrid have on Hortense. It's so cute. Love that. I love that area, that little pocket.
Yeah,
like,
and just, think about it this way is not only did you see that house, but you had to drive through a bunch of other houses in a neighborhood that you may or may not know to get there. And you're like, ooh, Beeman Park. That's a cool neighborhood. I get it. And so now as you're on Kling or you're on Beeman or you're on Troost or Teasdale or whatever it is, these are all getting into your brain. Like about where those streets are. It's near the Beeman Park Library. It's, you begin to know where things are. So now what I like about doing real estate in the valley is if you tell me an address, because I know the grid, the further east you go, the smaller the numbers get, the further west you go, the bigger. And you can tell me I'm at the 3900 block of Vantage. Well, I know exactly where your house is. And if you also then know east and west, odd and even, right where the house is.
Yes.
And so having kind of an institutional knowledge, one of the great agents in our office, Aileen Kimura, crazy how much she knows about houses and the history of those houses. And the names of the owners is cool because in LA, celebrity is a thing. But to me, knowing what they traded for, the dates they traded for, that's like an invaluable knowledge. I know that Jeff Hyland was sort of known as the king of Beverly Hills knowledge. He knew every house. He knew what it was traded for. And that became, he was an expert. And why wouldn't you hire an expert?
Exactly.
Okay? You hire the expert of Studio City, Sherman Oaks, Los Feliz, Beverly Hills, and so all things being equal, it's better to be an expert than not.
Exactly. Plus, I look at it as like you have the opportunity to, how cool is it that on those days we get to, look, I'm going to look at this really cool house.
Yeah.
And it's other people would say that, oh, that's so cool that you get to do that. I'm like, it is really cool.
Well, think about this way. A lot of people on weekends, like the looky-loos, the neighborhood looky-loos, they're just going to, they like to see other people's houses, see how people live. They like to get design ideas. So you're right. As a professional requirement, we have to do that, and i.e. we get to do that. So that's kind of interesting. I always say to people, I'm not a big fan of houses. It's just not my thing. I'm sports and music. But I need to know the inventory to help be a matchmaker for clients of mine, and not only just buyers, but also sellers who are selling it. If they don't do their market research, I don't understand what they're thinking they're doing. What other business would you be where you just like, well, I don't need to know. I make cars, but I don't need to know about any other cars. You have to know every car. If you're a Lexus, you have to know what BMW and Acura and Porsche and Mercedes are doing. You have to.
Yes.
You have to know all their inventory so that you know where you fit against that, both price-wise, performance-wise. Same thing with houses. You have to know. And it's just, so that's kind of a big part of our job is to do all that expert market analysis, share it with the client, say, let's talk about it. Let's collaborate on what do you think this means? It's not it's not, who cares what I think? Let me tell you what I think the market thinks. That's what to me is important, is conveying to the client, buyer and seller, here's what I believe the market thinks.
Yes.
And let's figure out, what do you think? Well, mine's twice as good. Okay.
Yes. And it's really important to present the data to them. Here's what we're looking at, because I'm doing that currently, and I had to go, okay, the price per square foot for this is this, and this is actually overpriced because blah, blah, blah.
Now,
and
price per square foot is a fascinating concept.
Yes.
My cliche is that it's, and especially because my client base tends to be my age-ish, a little bit younger, and they've got kids. So I say a price per square foot is an SAT score. It's sort of a necessary evil. Generally speaking, when you apply to college, you have an SAT or an ACT, but it does not, it just is a moment in time of how you took that test. But UCLA with 30,000 applications has to have a SAT score to kind of give them a very quick snapshot of who's trying to come in, because they only have 4,000 spots. So price per square foot tells us in a very quick way, these are the market averages. But I don't know that a view house, those are a different tranche of price per square foot versus something in the flats. High or low, it doesn't really matter, but you can't just sort of say these two houses. There has to be a sophisticated analysis of how are we going to look at this? Like I've right now, 1990s, these Mediterranean style houses are, generally speaking, much lower price per square foot than brand new construction. Some people of a certain income bracket would say, how about I give you a free house? And they'd say, no, thank you. I don't want that free Mediterranean house. It's not how I choose to live my life. I got plenty of money, plenty of options. So price per square foot is just sort of, you got to kind of compare like for like, a comparable. And in Los Angeles and where we're practicing, it's really interesting because it's challenging because we don't have tract housing too much. Right. If you're up in Santa Clarita, Valencia, where there's actual tracks, you got model A, B, and C. Right. They're all kind of the same square footage. But in Studio City, you got a 2,200 square foot house next to a 5,200 square foot house. They're literally right next door. Can they be comps? I don't know. I mean, first of all, the other thing is there's not a real estate judge that weighs in on this. You're not a lawyer and I'm not a lawyer, so we don't make our case and then we win the case. It's what the marketplace decides. So there is no, at the end of the day, there is no right and there is no wrong. It's kind of like willing buyer, willing seller. If you got a willing buyer that wants that 2,200 square foot house in that location, your job as an agent is to not to stand in the way of that deal, is to help facilitate what they want.
Yes.
It's interesting. I've heard some agents say, oh, I hate that house. All right, well, but what does your client think?
Right. It doesn't really matter what we think.
Think about this. You're a lawyer. Do you care? You may care, but are you, if your client's guilty, do you say, I'm supposed to defend him, but this guy's guilty as hell? No, you apply all the legal principles because you believe in the law.
Yes.
And you believe in the process, and the other side has to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the guy's guilty or the gal's guilty. So that's kind of what I see we have to do. Is it's far be it from me to tell my clients what they should buy or not buy. I'm happy with my house where I live. I'm here to serve you. And so, if you don't know what you want, I'll try to show you lots of options and tell you why certain neighborhoods work or what you'll expect from them. Do you want to be close to parks? Do you want to be close to public schools? Do you want to be close to where you work? Do you want to be close to restaurants? What do you want? Then I'm going to be a connector of what you want with what's there.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to know the areas too.
I get sometimes good friends, clients, oh, I'm going to buy up in Ojai. Or I'm going to sell up in Ojai. It's like, well, I'm no good to you there.
But they call you because they know.
They know me and they trust me. So then I say, but my colleagues, Eric Haskell and Blake Varga, they live there. He's opening up Montecito. And so that's, to me, what's so special about our company is that we've got this built-in trust, and we trust because we interface so much and we communicate so much and we get together so much. We know these people. I know those guys. So I can literally say to my client, my trusted client, call my pals, my colleagues, they will do you right. And I can do that with a great degree of confidence and trust. And that's even on a wider basis. What I think Mauricio and Rainey are trying to build is we should be able to do that and give client referrals in Austin, Texas, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Boston, Massachusetts, everywhere, because we come together in forum and we get to know our people and we kind of operate under the same premise. The wider out you get, the more difficult that is, right? But that's why in the Valley, Calabasas, Sherman Oaks, Studio City, we're in essence one office, one group of people with 3 different locations. And then we're kind of connected to the Beverly Hills and Brentwood and Palisades and Venice and South Bay office as well.
Yes.
So then we're trying to do that with Corona Del Mar, integrate them further so we can have this really tight knit baller group of people blanketing all of Southern California.
Yes. And it's really important. And being able to give someone, calling someone and saying, I have clients, I know that you will take care of them. That's a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
And it's, if you don't know for sure, like it's, you don't want to hand it. You're like, no, I need to know.
Even to the point, you've sat a lot of open houses for me.
Yes.
And I have a lot of open houses. So, and it's interesting. I get calls from people I don't know, from companies that aren't mine, saying, can I sit your open house? And I'm like, that makes no sense to me. Right, like, I don't know you. And I have to tell my client, in essence, I'm in your open house. So with Lindsay, I know her. I trust her. I see her at weekly meetings. I see how hard she works. I understand what her business is and the successes. I'm completely fine with her being my proxy on that Sunday. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy is that you then on Sunday afternoon, kind of just probably before you turn the door, have sent me an email or a text. Here's who came through. Yep. Here's what's happening. Lights are off. Here's what people said. Yep. And I can present that to the client and they get it. They know I can't physically be at 7 open houses for 3 hours on a Sunday. I have to allocate my time. But I have all these great quality agents who can be there. And then what hopefully happens is you're now getting, open houses are like the lifeblood currency of our business. That's when the consumer's coming through. So if you and I have a business arrangement that says you get participation in these new clients, then that's beneficial to you. So you're not just babysitting an open house. You're actually getting a business opportunity to be at that open house. And there's a whole level of responsibilities and opportunities that comes with that to sit that particular open house and kind of exploit that opportunity.
And it's really important to be prepared. And I appreciate the trust that you place in me too. And I have that, it's mutual. Like I trust you. Obviously you're an expert. I can call you anytime. And I feel very grateful for that. But it's everyone then, and I'm sure you know, because you see that I take really meticulous notes during opens because I'm trying to converse with as many people as possible to be able to give you the feedback that then you can pass along to your clients. And I think, you taught me a lot about, because you're very data driven, like even the way you send emails. And I learned a lot just being on those emails to see what information you were sharing with your clients and how important that was. And then knowing, like being that knowledgeable and prepared, you need to do that wherever you are with the open house.
Well, think about this. If the neighbors come in to see you, they might just be nosy neighbors and that's cool, but they might be thinking of selling their house.
Yeah.
And when they come in, and if they know more about their neighborhood than you do, I think you're already not going to get the job. They're in essence interviewing the person for the job. So how you look, it's right there, boom. Now, do we have to be in suits and ties and dresses? No. But do we look professional? We should. Are we attentive to that person coming in? Because if we're not, then they're making a mental note like, how is this person going to be at my open house? So I think a mistake that some agents who are sitting in an open house as a guest make is it's just, maybe if somebody comes in and says, hey, can you represent me? And blah, blah. It's just that doesn't happen like that. You have to work that relationship. And there's some agents who are phenomenally good at cultivating. It's almost like a cold call. Somebody's walking in an open house and you can convert them. Other people are, unfortunately, it's really, they just don't gain and they don't get any traction from those open houses. And it has to be, if I was doing this, and I did do this, that's the other thing. I've done this where I sat tons of open houses, cell phone technology, what do you call it? Flip phones.
Yes.
Right? So everything was slower and more laborious. But Sunday night, I always said, was my busiest night of the week because I worked Sunday and I got 10 to 8 people come through my door. I had to research who they were, research where they lived, research what they were looking for, send them stuff quickly. If I sent them stuff a week later, they don't even remember who I am. Right. But if they walked into an open house and had some sort of a conversation and I was like literally engaged with them and made a mental note, oh, their kids go to, Campbell Hall. Okay, I understand where that is. And they're second grade, so they're going to be there for a while. You just have to kind of make those connections about what it is that person, why did that person come into your store? Why did they come into your store on Sunday? Are they, again, they could just literally be looking at tile design. No problem. Talk to them about tile then, because if they're then going to renovate their home to get it ready for sale, they might then call you. That's what we're in the business for. We got to have our brain. That's how we're going to make our money, is our brain.
Yes, and that is very true because I've had open houses. Well, I've sat many of yours, and then we sold in Sherman Oaks, the condo. I had someone that I met there who reached out to me again recently. Like, oh, we met. I don't even remember. I'm like, of course I remember. And I said something that was pertinent to them, a fact about them that I just remembered from being engaged in the conversation, and then gotten listing appointments in the open house.
I've heard a lot of other very successful agents say that a key characteristic of their success is listening, just listening. So when the client comes in, rather than talk at them, maybe ask them a question or two that elicits information. Now, again, some clients or would-be clients, very cagey. They don't want to be bothered, and that's fine. You can't, I mean, again, at some point in time, you start to warm up to them, and if you sit enough open houses in a certain area, we all know there's people that we say, oh, I've seen you for a bit. You've been looking for a year. What's going on? Now, if they've been looking for years and years and years, that tells me something too. Probably never going to buy. That's no problem. But you'll start to see things. And every now and then I also get something where I'll get a call. Hey, I was working with another agent. It didn't seem to, they did whatever the problem is or was, but you seem to be very helpful and knowledgeable. Would you work with me? The answer is, of course. And especially if I can immediately make a connection of remembering who they were. And that's why when I'm at an open house, yes, I'm there 100% to sell the house I'm selling. But I'm also there to present myself and opportunities. So if somebody walks in, I usually like to have a list of all the other open houses in the area that might be of interest to them. So if they're looking at a $3 million house, I want to show them $2.5 to $4 million houses. And if it's in Encino, then we should see Tarzana and Sherman Oaks and just have that information. Have you seen these houses? And some of my sellers will say, well, wait a second, I thought you're selling my house. I said, I am. But if they're just coming in, sometimes by them seeing the other houses that maybe aren't as good as yours or overpriced, it helps you. I don't think you can ever win by being cloistered or not transparent. You know, it kind of sells itself in how we as salesmen portray the attributes.
Yes.
Right? Because no two houses are created exactly the same. So listening to what the client likes, you know, oh, we want a basketball court. You don't have one. Oh, but we can put one there. So then we might even do a rendering of our photos of a basketball court. It costs us whatever with ChatGPT and AI and all this sort of stuff. It costs us almost nothing. It takes a little bit of work, but it takes a thought. And then most important, acting upon that thought.
Yes.
Right? You got to actually do it.
Exactly. To that point, it's because we don't have anyone overseeing us being like, oh, you need to be in the office at 8 a.m. and you're going to be here until 7.
Yes.
You're like, you could easily, if you choose to, you could be like, I'm just going to watch whatever TV show that I want to catch up on today because I don't have to do anything I don't want to do or be anywhere that but obviously you won't have a business if you like that's, you know, you really have to keep showing up. I was actually talking to Derek about that just yesterday, continuing to show up. And sometimes you continue to show up and those opportunities, you think, oh, well, it didn't happen in a week. Well, it's not going to happen in a week. You have to keep showing up. And we were talking about how important that is.
Yeah, I think, you know, the adage is you do have to show up. You do have to, it's just hard work. I mean, there's not a magic bullet and there's not a secret wand. You know, some people are just more gifted than others, and you have to accept that. You know, some people, luck is a weird thing. I think you make your own luck, but you know, you can be in the right place at the right time and seizing upon the opportunity. I guess that's what's called luck. And there's good luck and there's bad luck. I think you just have to just do the hard work. I mean, nobody pays you to watch TV.
Exactly.
You know, and not even when you're a Nielsen family, you got like $10. So you don't get paid to do that stuff. And that is why it's called work and not fun. And so there are sacrifices. And there's also, I'm now kind of as a managing partner, I understand not everybody has to be a $100 million producer. You can have, this is a good job and you can still have a life.
Yes.
You know, I got 2 daughters. I'd love for them to come work for me. And
oh, that would be awesome.
But also, like, you know, if they have a family and raise children, it's a great job to do while you're doing that. I mean, So I don't think you have to work 24/7. You do have to work hard and you do have to work smart, because there's some people that work really hard and they're not working smart or efficient. They're just kind of running around. Like I would say, and as an example, if you sat an open house in Mar Vista and then Los Feliz and then Sherman Oaks on 3 different, you're working hard. But I think that's a disbursement of energy that's not going to yield as much if you sat the same open house in Sherman Oaks or the same open house in Mar Vista. You want to build up that repetition, that muscle of like, hey, here's who I am. Because maybe the first weekend you actually door knock on 2 or 3 streets. Hey, I'm sitting in an open house. Well, the next weekend you do 3 other streets. Right. The next weekend you do a different email blast. So you're kind of trying to massage that area. And there's plenty of agents, myself included. Like I'm like very, very prominent in Encino. I don't live in Encino. Right. How did that happen? There's other agents. A friend of mine, Larry Young, he's very prominent in Little Holmby Hills in Westwood. He lives in the Hollywood Hills, right? And he grew up in the Valley. So how did that happen? It's just that he's worked this particular area. And again, it's a wonderful business because you can work from Los Feliz. I mean, this week alone, I'm closing something in Hidden Hills, Beverly Hills, and Pacific Palisades. That's a pretty wide swath of area. So I have to drive a little bit. So it's not just, 3 houses on one street or 3 houses in one block. But I think if you focus your areas on and develop an expertise in that area, you just have a greater chance of getting more traction in a quicker manner.
Yes, I think that's a very good strategy. And also because when you first start, you're like, I will do everything and I'll go anywhere. And it's then the more you do this and the longer you see the value in knowing Studio City, Sherman Oaks, it just really micro focusing on those areas and becoming an expert. And you told me that too from
if you think about the thing we talked about, like working smart. So, we talked about working open houses. That's fine. So say there isn't an open house for you to sit in the area you want to be, Studio City. Well, then use that work day to go see everything that's open. Now that's still working, but you're focused on the area. So again, if somebody says, well, do you want to sit my open house on Mar Vista? You say, well, I need to sit open houses, but I don't know, that 3 or 4 or 5 hours you're going to take to drive there, be there, and drive back in Mar Vista, where you may never go there again and you've never been before and you don't know anything about the area. I'd rather, think to me, it seems smarter to see a bunch of this inventory in Sherman Oaks and Studio City and Toluca Lake even, because they're kind of the same area. And by the way, then you might branch out and go above or below your kind of usual price point. Our colleague and managing partner, Michelle Schwartz, always says, you can't sell higher price things unless you know about them, right?
Exactly.
Right. And so you should go and see them. And, then when you're at dinner, at church, at your bowling league, at your, whatever it is you do socially, and you tell people, I saw this crazy great house on the lake of Toluca Lake. It's such a pretty area. There might be people that say, I've never seen Toluca Lake. I've always thought about it. What's it like? So now you're developing some level of expertise about something like, I came from the television business.
Yes.
And when I produced a show, like I was always surprised. Like some people, I had a hit show, Mad About You.
Yes.
But I was always surprised when people didn't know about it. I'm like, what do you mean? Everybody, but how do you not know about that show? But one thing that's fascinating is everybody knows about real estate. Because everybody lives somewhere, house or apartment, condo. Everybody works somewhere. So everybody has a knowledge of real estate. And when people ask me, like, they say, well, you're the expert. I'm saying, yeah, but you live in a house. Like, you're kind of an expert too, right? I mean, you cook and you take out the trash. You know what it takes to live in a house. You know what a floor plan works for you. So you're not a complete neophyte. Yes, I probably have a greater command of data than you do, particularly at this moment in time. But, if you're looking for a house, we can get pretty caught up on the data pretty quickly, right? It's not like the stock market where there's, literally thousands and thousands of stocks that are literally going up and down every second of the day. Yes. Houses, it's a little slower moving, and you're not going to live everywhere, right? So you're not going to say, I need to know every house in Los Angeles. No, I want to know Beverly Hills Flats. Okay, there's 32 houses for sale. That's not that many that you can't become an expert pretty darn quick on 32 houses.
For sure.
Or 18 houses or 4 houses, right? So, if you're like, that's why when somebody says, I want to be south of the boulevard in Encino, not north? No. Okay, great. I now have this parameter, we can get pretty darn deep pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can go even deeper with pockets, right?
Yes.
And then we can start to explore, and if somebody then says, well, here's what I want. I want to live in Fryman Canyon with 1 flat acre for $4 million. I'm going to say it will not happen. I just know the inventory too well.
Mm-hmm.
I've got too much of a historical knowledge. Like those things that you just said won't happen. But we can find this over here. Can I show you that? And so many agents have had success stories where, the adage buyers are liars, which just means they don't always know what they want. And if they're open to our suggestions, then something kind of magical could happen where they might find that great house in a neighborhood they just never even envisioned or knew. But our expertise in being that matchmaker, neighborhood, house, price point, attributes, persons, and what they want, and we can put that together. That's kind of the interesting part.
Yes. So I want to ask you about your production days because I'm very curious about that. And I think there are so many similarities, I think, between the two businesses.
Oh, 100%.
So many. They're so similar. And I mean, because the open house, if someone's coming in to interview you, that's basically an audition. And you may not get the job. You don't know. You go on a listening appointment, also an audition. You may not get the job because they might be interviewing 10 other people. I'm just curious with production, what do you think that you took from that? Because you were produced Mad About You and you were the original associate producer on The Simpsons.
Yes.
Those are major shows. And so I'm curious what you took from the production days that you apply over here in real estate. And what made you be like, okay, I'm done with producing. Now I'm going to transition into this.
Well, I think what made me be done was the business was done with me. Right? We're now in this second great contraction, right? I think the entertainment business is down like 40% less jobs here in Los Angeles, which was a company town. My kind of heyday was I was in the live action sitcom.
Yes.
Right. So Tracy Ullman's show, Mad About You, and a whole host of other things.
So
that
good.
was a thing that doesn't really exist anymore. And that's what I did. And I was kind of not pigeonholed, but that was my expertise. And so then when Survivor came out, that was reality. That changed the paradigm shift. And I also remember like Malcolm in the Middle. It's a great single camera comedy.
Yes.
Very different. And so from a production skill set, I was not quite there. So the business kind of evolved away from, and I couldn't evolve with it. Like, so I went from producing into directing, and because that was also a great business, but just less jobs were available. And then they started migrating out. And so that was the other thing. Yes, you could direct, but you had to go to Atlanta or New Orleans or Vancouver or Toronto. And I was raising a family. So that just wasn't a viable option for me. But in terms of the skill set, I've actually written blogs about how producing is sort of the same as kind of developing real estate or house, right? I always said I never knew how to put film into the camera or tape into the audio machine, but I knew who to hire to do that.
Right.
And I knew how to get them there on schedule, pay them, and how the budget was. And that's kind of what developing real estate is, right? I don't know how to, hammer a nail or put a 2x4 in or lay tile, but I know who to hire. Those are the crew. So it's that an executive producer is sort of the same as a developer. And so you have to hire the writer and the director. And so when my wife and I are developing properties, she's the writer director. I'm the producer. I kind of stay in my lane, which is administrative and whatnot. But then in terms of just selling real estate, I found what was interesting was a great agent, business owner, Myra Normand. I hired her one time when I had done a spec house, and she talked about how she picks up the newspaper every day, called the New York Times, reads it front to back so that she has a knowledge of the world. So when she's dealing with her clients, buyers, or if she's selling a house and she kind of knows what that seller's business is, she knows what's happening in their world. And she can equate the process of selling their property with how they might equate it with their own business. So if you're in the widget making business, and I have researched the New York Times and I study that every day and I have a cursory knowledge of your business, I can kind of make some connections with this process that's very foreign, selling their house, to the process that's very familiar, which is their own business. So because I've been in the entertainment business for so long, I know first draft of scripts. So when I'm writing my narrative copy for a client and that client is a writer, I'm saying, listen, don't freak out if this isn't exactly, you're the executive producer. I'm the junior writer. You know your house far better than me. I've just spent 1 hour here. I'm going to write a first draft. And just like all scripts, we do 30 drafts if you like. And we can also, just like when you used to have ads for movies and they would air on like a Thursday night, and you wouldn't do the same ad over and over and over, because then you kind of feel like you've seen the movie. You might do one ad that sort of showed the action component of it, one that showed the humorous component of it. Same thing with marketing a house. You can't have the same static marketing over and over and over. Like one of the tricks I do is every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I change my hero photo in the MLS. Because if you send out an email blast every day, as soon as I see that, I delete it. I know the house. But if you show me a different image of that house, I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh, yeah, I know that house. Oh, I never saw the backyard. I didn't realize that the primary suite has high ceilings. Whatever it is, the things that you're doing, you're shifting and you're changing and you're evolving, which means you got to be on top of it, right? And you got to take action to change it so that and again, when we take pictures of somebody's house, oh my God, that picture's not good. I'm like, well, it's one of 34, right? Then when we're only going to use one in an ad, and that ad only runs once. So yes, we want it to be great, but it can't be the be all end all of your house. It just can't be. Like that one image of your house, you might have the most beautiful primary bathtub. That's a kind of a weird shot in an ad. Right?
Yes. Right? It's like, why would that be
it's a little weird, right? Especially if it's just one shot. So you have to have kind of a holistic view of what you're going to do marketing the house. That's why I do, first of all, that's why I spend a fair amount, because I know that Instagram and social media are great, but I feel it's a little too disperse. And also probably my buyer pool and my seller pool is probably not super dedicated to those social media platforms. But but LA Times, it's definitely shrunk in terms of its traction in the marketplace. But MLS Guide, I still think, is the Bible for our industry. So I'm always advertising there. We used to have great magazines in the Valley. Ventura Boulevard Magazine, that's kind of gone by the wayside. But Hidden Hills Magazine, Calabasas Magazine, Toluca Lake Magazine, these are good local magazines. And you've got other ones on the west side. So I'm a big fan of just kind of loading up the shotgun, firing away and doing videos, doing photos, doing Instagram posts, doing email blasts, doing LA Times ads, just and then tracking that data.
Yes.
I always thought it was fascinating in my business, the TV business. We aired last night. What were our ratings?
Yes.
Right. And, there's 100,000, 10,000 people who are Nielsen families. That determined our fate. Right. And they had to extrapolate, well, how many people might be watching it. And it was crazy because we knew in the computer age, with Netflix and stuff like that, and they can literally know exactly how many eyeballs are watching it and when. And yet in the TV business, you weren't, for privacy's sake, allowed to really track that. Whereas now in the MLS, I can send my clients every week, here's how many eyeballs are looking at your house. Here's what they did with it. They mapped it. What does that mean? They want to map it. They forwarded it. They made it a favorite. And then let's track that week to week to week to week. And it means something.
It does.
Especially vis-a-vis other listings. I might say to somebody, hey, your house had 2,200 views last week. And they're like, great. What does that mean? I'm like, well, I've got 5 other listings and they all had between 1,000 and 1,500 views. So your 2,200 views seem to be better. Or, well, we did a price change and your views spiked up. That means something. So it's just about, there's the data, which we collect, and then there's the extrapolation of what that data means. And that's kind of what our job is about. That's why when we have these meetings, we talk about techniques. How do we facilitate price modifications, right? I rarely ever ask or tell a client, you need to lower your price. I keep on sending them the data, and I keep on saying, these many people are looking at your house. Here's how many people are coming to your open house, and here's how many people are calling me to see your house. And here's how many offers we have. Let's talk about what that means. We usually all know what it means.
Yes. And it is effective. And I'm sure we've had that happen on deals that we've been on too, where you did present the data and then they're like, okay, let's lower it to this. What do you think about that? So and it makes sense. And that is our job, is to guide them. Because when someone says, I trust you, you're the expert, you're like, okay, this is why you have to
That's
be.
a heavy burden.
That's a major thing.
Yeah,
Major.
that's a heavy burden. You know, when I get called in a lot, can you come and take a look at my house and tell me what I need to do to my house? I'm like, well, it's your house, first of all. So whatever you want to do, you know, certain things like paint, that's kind of low hanging fruit and it's kind of highly transformative. But, you know, now with all these internet tools, you can paint the house and show them what it's going to look like. And they might say, oh, wow, that's awesome. And I've done it where I haven't painted the house, but I've changed the imagery online. And then you just sort of say, this is a rendered image. This is what the house could look like. And so if you've got a tan stucco or yellow stucco, which maybe isn't everybody's favorite these days, and make it kind of off-white or Montecito Spanish or alabaster, whatever it might be, and visually do that, that's pretty good. Brandon and Monty and I have a client right now. It's like it's all brick backyard. We've done the rendering with grass. And just sort of show people what that could look like. It's only halfway effective because when they get there, it's still all brick.
Right. And they're like, what? And some people can't. You're like, well, here's a photo, but they can't imagine. Yeah. Just like staging. If it's empty, they'll say, well, where would you put this? Or where would you put the TV? So you're trying to explain, well, this is what I would do. It's really personal preference, but I think it would be nice here. So the staging is really important too.
I get the financial commitment. And I get that's you know, that's why there's so many businesses now, and Notable is one, a Knock might be another, that Compass Concierge, where, okay, well, it's so important to the experience of getting somebody to buy your house that it's worth making that investment. But you're right. If you walk in and only the photos were rendered, the experience of buying the house, because very, very few people will buy a house just online.
Right.
You know, I'm even looking at like TVs right now online. I'm like, no, I got to go into Best Buy.
You have to go actually
I got to go see the thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
that's funny.
You know,
I was doing that too.
Yeah, the whole online experience, you know, just means that you're dedicated to returning stuff, because it's like, you know, that's why the retail shopping experience is still valuable. Is that you go there, you try on a shirt, you try on pants, shoes. How do they feel? How do they look and you know, do you want them to look great, or do you want them to feel great, or do you want them both, or what's the price? All these things come into play. And when you're just shopping online, you get a lot of boxes.
For sure.
Porch pirates steal some of it.
Yes.
You know, and then the stuff then you got to give it back. And I don't know how much time you actually, now toilet paper for sure.
You're like, okay, we know what this is.
Yeah, 100%. Staples or sundries or whatever. I get that. But when it's a discretionary or a fit or something like that, it just feels like go to the place. And that's what houses are.
Absolutely.
You got to go there.
And I just said that to a client the other day. They said it looked so different in the photos, and I didn't notice this or that. And I said, that's why you have to walk it. Yeah. And sometimes, you know, they'll be out of town or they'll be moving from it. And so then we do videos or we FaceTime. And then it's like, but you still have to come walk it and make sure.
I sold one very big house to somebody who was out of town, and I did probably a 2-hour FaceTime with them. And they were, you know, it was not their first house. They were very experienced. And so when oh, can you show me a close up of that? You know, they really kind of was a very interactive and very lengthy, right? I mean, how many showings are 2 hours? Not many.
Not many.
So to do something that long where you literally were going through the whole house, that client felt very comfortable that they really knew the house. And they'd seen the stat pictures online, but they kind of wanted to just sort of see up close and detail, you know, and they couldn't make it down.
Yeah. And and luckily you were able to do that. And it's important. We have to do that.
We have the technology.
Yes, we do. There's no excuse to be like, oh, I'm sorry. Well, you can't see it. It's like, no, you can.
Actually, you can get messed up with no Wi-Fi.
That too. Right? That's the worst. And it used to be, now with the Supra, it used to be like, oh no, I can't open it. I can't open it because and now they fixed that since, but that was a nightmare. And so I'm glad that we have better technology for that now. So I know you don't have a lot of time. You've got a lot to do. So I want to ask you a couple of questions. What are you most proud of outside of your family?
Well, I would say one thing I'm most proud about it is that I've actually been able to pivot and go from one career to another. Okay. You know, I've got a lot of friends and colleagues who are in the entertainment business, and, you know, it's that proverbial who moved my cheese, and my cheese got moved. So I moved with it. And so that's something that I'm keenly aware of, is that, and I think I tell people I really enjoyed the entertainment business, and I was pretty good at it. But I wasn't great. You know, there's people who are way more talented than me. And my skill set, my temperament, I'm better suited to this job. And I like it. I really like the job. It's, you know, it's stressful. It's busy, but I like the entrepreneurial aspect of it. So I'm very proud of that, of having built this. And I'm proud of my association with this company. I say not only do I drink the Kool-Aid, I kind of help make it. So I like, the premise that I get to really have I don't mean from a financial standpoint, but I have an ownership in this company. And I try to impart that to all the agents, is that you should feel like this is your company. Right. So that you don't just feel like, oh, why are they doing that? If there's something that's wrong, you're empowered and you should change it. And you can sort of change it from within.
Yes. And I mean, I'm the same as you. I love it. I feel very fortunate and very grateful to be here. I don't know that I would still be doing this probably if I were, if I weren't here at the agency. So yeah. I feel grateful for that.
Well, it's a tough business. It's an easy job, and it's very easy. It's a tough business. And I think that's what kind of sucks some people in, is they see, we're not paycheck people, we're salespeople, and we're selling high ticket items. So if you're selling pencils, or like Mauricio used to do, buttons, you got to sell 1 million buttons at a penny a piece, right? And they cost, a quarter of a penny to make. So there's like this, it's very, very thin margins, and the volume has to be high. You can, if you're in the house selling business, it depends on what level of price point, but we're in that 2.5% business. So the money can be good, but you have to have some volume there. Yeah. So it's an easy job, but a tough business.
Yes, I would agree with that. So also, is there anything you haven't done yet that you want to do? Anything you haven't accomplished?
That's a good question. I would say one thing I want to do that I haven't accomplished yet is to see if either of my daughters want to join me. And that would be, I think, just interesting and fun. And they both have great jobs, and they both have good careers. So it's not, it would just be like, I know the value of this profession. It's not one that gets outsourced. It does give you, I believe, an enviable degree of autonomy. So you can take time off. I've done deals when I've been in Europe. I've done deals when I'm in Sun Valley, Idaho. I really like that. Like I make my living by talking and by thinking. Being physically at some place is less, it's critical. I mean, most of my clients, I think, recognize the amount of time I give them. I go to the house to see it with them. I'm there at the house when for the most part, in every facet of selling. Am I there for the 9A inspection or the retrofit inspection? Probably not. But am I doing the repeat showings? 100%.
Yeah.
My job's to help sell the house, and I've got to be the one that helps sell it and talk to the client about what the conversation was, et cetera.
Yeah. I think that would be really cool if they both could work with you. They would excel for sure.
Well, my oldest, she works for Kim Kardashian Skims, and I got a little thing that says they're a $5 billion company. I'm like, I'm a $2 million company, So yeah, it kind of pales in comparison. But yeah, so I think they're both there. They've sort of grown up seeing me interface with people, and I'm driving around and calls are on the speakerphone, and people are dropping F-bombs, and my daughter's like,
you guys are such a nice family, have such a great family dynamic, and you're all just so nice. And I don't know, I think that could be really fun if they came to work with you.
Well, there's also what's interesting is that they've grown up in the area, so now their friends are growing up in the area, so it's not like they're transplants. I mean,
like
exactly. I always sort of say that's why there's such a tough business, is that if you're a transplant, you just don't have that kind of base or that instant base of people.
Yes.
Right. I do. My kids went K through 12 at a certain school. Like, people just know me. I've been around for a bit, so people know me. Now, there's all sorts of different ways to get there, but yeah. So that's to answer your question. That's one of the things that I haven't done yet that would be nice.
And my last question for you is, what do you love most about yourself?
About myself, it's easier to answer things that what I don't love, what I need to work on, to be honest with you, is, I try to have a sense of patience, but I can be very impatient sometimes. I try to be very calm and cool, but as people who know me, I can sometimes get triggered. So those aren't things that I need to work on, and we're all just human.
Exactly.
Right? Nobody's perfect.
Exactly.
So, and you can't beat yourself up over that.
Yes.
So yeah, it's kind of just continuing to work on the things that make me a better person, a better husband, a better father, a better colleague, better agent, so it's all these things. And that's, what's interesting is every day you got to wake up put on the suit
Yeah.
or, you know, the armor and get into it, you know.
Yes.
So, but thank you so much for having me here. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I'm very grateful for you. And I think, you know, you are such a good person and I think you're really cool. You've had such such incredible success in both careers. And, you know, we're really lucky to have you as one of our leaders. Like a lot of us look up to you so much. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
As always, thank you so much for listening to Behind the Glamour. You can like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and stay tuned for the next episode.